Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Two heavyweight fights have been confirmed on the Undisputed Ring of Fire card, with Tyson Fury and Alexander fighting off all the marbles. The two heavyweight fights, a very good contender matchup between Agit Kabayel and Frank Sanchez, and also the rising heavyweight prospect Moses Itauma will be facing what I believe is the very overmatched Ilya Mensevez. So we'll start off with Kabayel and Sanchez because tasty matchup for all sorts of reasons, and then come to Itauma a little bit later on. So in terms of this matchup, which I think for two guys who've kind of been on the outside looking in to some extent, Saudi Arabia has really given Agit Kabayel and Frank Sanchez a platform to show their wares. As we saw, Kabayel decimated Aslan Bekmambetov in the Day of Reckoning card at the end of 2023, and you had Frank Sanchez who took out Junior Fa. He looked a little bit pedestrian for the first couple of rounds before turning things up, ultimately getting the stoppage. But this is a good fight for both, because these two guys are kind of in the who needs them club. There's a number of heavyweights in the past couple of years that have been in that who needs them club, but also Kabayel had been barely fighting. Saudi Arabia's got him more active. We've now seen him a couple of times in the past year, and seemingly we're going to see him fight 3 times in the space of a 1-year period, which is unheard of for Kabayel in the past, 6 or 7 years. So as we know, Kabayel got what was a very good win in 2017, and it feels so long ago now, outclassed Derek Chisora, and then almost went missing, fighting once a year, sometimes opponents that, just maintained rankings, but not necessarily really getting him anywhere, calling out the big names, calling for a title fight with Tyson Fury, and he was in the conversation at one point to get a Tyson Fury fight. Frank Sanchez has been moving his way up. He was fighting on PBC cards for some time, and it just really wasn't sort of happening. Never really any talk with him being matched with the likes of Luis Ortiz or Deontay Wilder when he was at PBC. All the other PBC heavyweights effectively stayed away from him. So he's been kind of, just like Kabayel, sort of toiling away a little bit in obscurity. Frank Sanchez a bit more active, but he did get a good cross-promotional opportunity, which is his career best win to date, which was against F.A. Ajagba. That was on one of the Fury Wilder fights. So since then, a little bit, lackluster in terms of trying to take that progression, the next step. And Kabayel sort of has always been promising to step up, but hasn't. But with the Saudi Arabian cards, the fights, it's made sense that after their last wins against Fa and Makhmudov respectively, that these two should come together, and that the Saudi Arabians would be able to sort of put a deal together that made it worthwhile. Because in years gone by, this sort of fight would have never have happened, because they wouldn't have wanted to risk their high sanctioning body positions all across the board in the 4 sanctioning bodies without, one, a big payday being on the line, and that it going towards a title. Because there's no guarantee that after this they either gets a title shot, although you cannot deny that Kabayel versus Sanchez, after having taken out, a couple of good opponents in recent years, that, these guys do not deserve a title shot if they win this one. They absolutely would. They would be sitting, waiting and watching and be deserving of a title shot, the winner of this fight. So how do I see this playing out? Well, I don't think this is going to be anything like Kabayel's last fight, where he absolutely decimated Makhmudov to the body and made short work of him. And I don't necessarily see Sanchez just sort of outclassing Kabayel on the boxing front, because Kabayel is a good technical boxer. He's a slick boxer. I think this actually has the potential, and probably lucky that it's a little bit further down the bill. As you can see here from the announcement, it is going to be 3 fights removed from the main event. And potentially what we could have is these two guys blunting each other for quite a few rounds. That it is going to be tight. It's going to be cagey. You're going to have Frank Sanchez probing, looking for holes. Kabayel doing the same. Kabayel looking to work to the body, looking to land hooks. Frank Sanchez looking to come in, land a big right hand. And it could end up being a bit of a stalemate. But I do think of the two that Frank Sanchez does have the power to change the fight, because I think he's going to have to land something telling to the head to really discombobulate Agit Kabayel. And as we saw against Argon Smikici not so long ago, which was a decent win for Kabayel, but he got touched up in that one, and he was in all sorts of trouble, and almost it looked like the referee was going to jump in and stop the fight. But I do think if Sanchez is able to land and starts to break Kabayel down, that he can actually potentially get a stoppage, or that he is going to get the better of the second half of the fight against Kabayel. I just think that Kabayel has a little bit of a tendency to box in spurts. He likes to be the sort of manager of his own destiny in terms of the pace and style of a fight. I think Frank Sanchez is going to make him work a bit harder than he wants to. It will start to catch up with him. And I do think Sanchez is going to have more success as the fight wears on, landing the right hand in particular. And I wouldn't be surprised if he manages to hurt and stop Kabayel later in the fight. But I am picking Frank Sanchez to win this fight, possibly by decision, but I think he's going to win. And it could even, as I say, end by stoppage. But this is a very good fight. I wrote off Kabayel to my own peril against Makhmudov because of the momentum, even though for years I was a big advocate of Kabayel and the skills that he had. I just thought that his inactivity and sort of inability to put himself forward for big fights, and the inactivity would have actually sort of coalesced and sort of seen him diminish. As we saw, he was still very sharp against Makhmudov. When he stepped up, when he had that fight that he needed to have after basically 4 or 5 years off, he was still at a good level and able to compete with a very good fighter and actually outclassed him. So this is a step up again. You know, Sanchez is not Aslanbek Makhmudov. We knew with Makhmudov the wheels would fall off at some point when he got to a certain point. Kabayel was the man to do that job on him. So I think Sanchez is going to have to really be on his wits against a guy like Kabayel. Kabayel is a decent puncher. He doesn't have huge knockout concussive power. I think Sanchez does have the edge in terms of one-punch power. But one of the key things for Sanchez will have to be, he's going to have to come in around 235, 240. He can't be rolling in close to 250 where he looks slower, the reflexes, the timing's out, because when he has been heavier, he hasn't looked good. Kabayel pretty much always comes in roughly about the same weight. He generally fights the same sort of style, likes to box and move, be cute, and I do think he is probably going to split some rounds with Sanchez, and it's going to be a very close fight for as long, probably for 6 or 7 rounds before I think Sanchez starts to get a hold and take a grip on the fight. That's just the way that I'm thinking it plays out, but it wouldn't shock me if Kabayel won either by decision. I don't necessarily see him stopping Sanchez here, but I could see it happening the other way around. But I like the fight. I really do. But I am favouring Frank Sanchez in this one to beat Agit Kabayel. I think this is a very good fight, sort of a 55-45 sort of fight, in my view, 50-50 pretty much. And these two guys are legit somewhere between 8 and 15 in the world in terms of the best heavyweights around. Some people will have them firmly inside their top 10 towards the back end, and I wouldn't be mad at that at all. But because Kabayel's been away for so long, we haven't seen much of him. Sanchez hasn't necessarily always had the toughest opposition or a live body in front of him enough. There are a few questions, I guess, and hopefully these are answered, and we get to see who is the guy that's deserving to go on and deserve a title shot. Because if these guys beat each other, I think they fully deserve it. And just a quick one before we go. So Moses Itauma will be facing the overmatched German Ilya Mezentsev. And that name rang a bell, and I thought, I swear I've seen him fight before, and I had. About 5 years or so ago, he fought the German Tom Schwarz, and he lost a fight, retired after 6 rounds, and record of 24-3, 28 years old, world number 270, no power. So he is going to be in a world of trouble. He won't be able to keep Itauma off him. And this is another opportunity for Itauma to get a good stoppage and something for the highlight reel. Probably not a lot else out of this fight, because I think after 3 or 4 rounds, if it goes that far, he'll have the best of him, should be able to stop him. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.